Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way, another pivotal part of the episode with Josh Robinson. I hope you've been enjoying the talk that we had many months ago. He is a friend of a former guest, Ryan Betson, as well. I advise you to go and listen to that one. They come from very similar worlds, but completely different stories. Absolutely phenomenal, that one as well. So please go and tune into Ryan. But today with Josh, we're going to continue where we left off yesterday, but also look at the personal journey of Josh's coming out. He shares the intimate stories of telling those close to him before announcing it to the world. So thank you to Josh for being vulnerable, and let's hold space for him. We'll be right back with Josh, and then tomorrow's the final part with our guest this week. So come back for that too.
I remember laughing in the pre-chat because you shared with me, and you said this in a very humorous way, but I remember you telling me that you always feel the need to tell people that you're gay every time you meet them now. And I remember you telling me, I have something to tell you.
It's just because I got in the mindset of it's going to come up at some stage, so may as well just blurt it out now. So
for our conversation, because it's important to your journey, isn't it?
Sure, yeah, no, but it's just in meeting anybody. You got to remember, if you want to look at it on a deeper level, every time I meet somebody, if they don't know me, I have to come out in a sense. It's not as dramatic and emotional and all of that, but I have to tell them at some stage where you necessarily don't have to do that. They just automatically assume that about you're just a straight guy and living your life. But I've got to come. So sometimes I just break the ice of meeting someone. If my friends are out with someone and they're like, "Oh, this is Josh," I'm like, "What's up? I'm homosexual." And then they just kind of are like, "Oh, okay, sweet." And I'm like, because honestly too, it's a good little judgment of character, because if someone kind of turns their nose up, I'm like, well, I know I don't got to waste my time with you.
Very good point.
I just kind of get it out of the way now. Breaks the ice. It's a good little laugh. People understand my sense of humor then. They're like, okay, this guy's kind of a bit fucked up. We can have a good time. That's how I view it. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm good. That's out of the way. I don't got to explain this to you now. If you see me kissing a boy later, you know why. You know what I mean? It's not just because I'm drunk and oh, maybe you're going to flip to the other side. It's not
experimenting that night.
Yeah, I'm just seeking this out. I'm just, whatever. But you know what I mean? So it's just easier sometimes just to be like, let's get this out of the way now.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to handle
Although
it.
sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I have fun with it, and people be talking to me with a little while, friends, and they're like, are you gay? And I'm like, what? I'm not. How dare you? And people are watching someone's face just being like, oh my God. And I'm like, no, I am. And then they're like, oh shit. And it's it's so fun. I can have some fun with it. Trust me. Because you know that panic that people go through? I'm like, oh my God, they're not.
It's like how you're pregnant.
Yeah. And then the girl's like, excuse me. And you're like, holy fucking shit. You're like, oh my God, no, I'm so sorry. I can have some fun with it. I can just.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but it's just easier because it just has to. It has to come out at some point, it will come up in conversation at some point. So let's just get it out of the way.
Brilliant. Well, before we do come to the end then, let's just go back a little bit in time. I think we're probably around the stage of before you came out, leaving school, early adulthood. Where were you when you left school, and what did you tend to do then?
I was just working at Woolies. I was doing nothing crazy. I thought I was going to work at Woolies for a year. I ended up working there for nearly 10. Ugh.
Wow.
So I just I moved out, like I said, when I was 18. It was a few months after I turned 18. I was like, I need to get out of here. I don't need to be here anymore. I need to put myself up with this. So I got out of there.
I do want to clarify for anyone who's listening outside of Australia, Woolworths is a supermarket, because we have Woolworths in England. Well, we did, but it went under years before I moved to Australia, but it wasn't a supermarket. It was slightly different.
Oh, okay.
It was a shop, but it wasn't like your Sainsbury's or Morrison's in England. Woolworths is like a Morrison's or a Sainsbury's for those who are listening in England. Just needed to clarify that.
See, I was a produce boy, so I stacked fruit and veg all day. Worked with a lot of good people. Like I said, thought I was going to be there for a year, just I'm out of school now, this will just get me, and then I'll get into something else, and I never did. But yeah, so I moved out of home when I was just after I turned 18, lived with a friend for a little while. That didn't really work that great. So then I was like, unless I'm fucking you, I don't want to be in the same house as you. So I lived with my older brother for a little while. as well, and that didn't go great because it was like money involved, and I was like, this isn't working. So then I just kind of lived on my own, and I've lived with guys since we're dating and stuff like that. But I live on my own now. It's great. But yeah, so I kind of just did that for a little while. Just kind of plodded along. Discovered, just life, I guess, as you're 19, 20 years old.
And you had another significant event with your role model, your granddad. He unfortunately started to get a little bit ill around 2019. Is that right?
Yeah. So he was working, and he had a fall, and he kind of like hit his head a little bit, and it wasn't like the immediate impact of things, but just things started to like spiral down. This was at the beginning of 2019. He was honestly starting to go a little bit before that. I truly believe in my heart of like signs of dementia and stuff like that. He wasn't all that old. He was only, I think it was like his late 60s when this was happening. So he wasn't old. But he was just certain little things of like, I'm not sure about this. But anyway, he had this fall, and then it just kind of like, I think kind of like kicked it into gear a little bit. So he started to get dementia. He had to kind of stop working and stuff like that because he was still working. My grandpa was a worker. Like, he just liked to work, liked to keep himself busy. Even if he wasn't, he drove school buses. Even if he wasn't working, he was like doing stuff around the house. Like, he was always like building something, or like he just had some kind of project all the time. He was just always doing something. But yeah, he started to get ill, and then he started slowly. Dementia's awful. It's truly just a horrible thing to look at, because there's not really there's not really a lot you can truly, I feel, this is just my experience, there's not really a lot you can do other than just kind of like let it slowly happen. Just little things would happen, and you're just like, oh. And then you started to slowly forget things and stuff like that, and kind of, one day he would remember who you are, and the next day he was like, I have no idea who this person is. Then he like completely forgot it, like me. Like, I was like the first grandkid and stuff like that, which is crazy because I lived with him. Like, none of the other grandkids did. But he kind of forgot me, and I don't know. I just remember having conversations with my grandpa when I was like in my teens. He was like, I never want to be put in a nursing home. I never want to be like not being able to eat or like go to the toilet on my own. Like, he said he would rather be dead. Like, I remember him saying that. I just remember him getting to a point where he was in a nursing home and that, and people were like, why aren't you visiting him? And I was like, because I remember my grandpa saying, I don't want any of you guys to see me like this. Like, I'd rather just not be on the earth. So I just kind of like didn't see him a lot. Not never, but I just didn't, because I just truly believed in my heart, like, this is not what he wanted me to see him like. So some of my family didn't really agree with that. But I just
doing what you thought was best, though, right?
Yeah, and then he got sicker and sicker. I obviously express lining it, but over the years, he just got sicker, and then he was in hospital, and he was just nothing. Like, he was like sitting up and couldn't talk. He was on a breathing machine, couldn't eat, he couldn't go to the toilet. And then so just for context, this was at the end of 2021. And my sister was getting married. So this was November 20th of 2021. And my sister had gotten married. My grandpa couldn't go because he was just so unwell. So my sister got married. And then it was my birthday a few days later. And then we're coming up to the anniversary of his passing. So he died in the early hours of the morning in December the 3rd. So just a few weeks after my sister got married. And then, so he passed away. We kind of got warning from my family that were with him of like, probably should come and visit him. I think it's not too much longer with him. So we kind of went up, and I wish, honestly, as much as it is horrible to say, I wish I didn't, because that's the last image that I have of my brain of him. And he didn't look like my grandpa. Like, he just looked, he was all shriveled up, and like, I was like, this isn't great. So that wasn't lovely. So yeah, then he passed away, and it was difficult. I never really had experience like a close death in my life until that moment. So that's a long time. Like, this was only 3 years ago. I never really had, so I didn't really know how. Everyone experiences it really different, and you learn a lot about yourself when you go through grief, because you're like, how am I gonna react to this? And I thought I was a really bad person because I didn't cry immediately. I was like, am I meant to be sad? And I kept telling myself that I should be sad, but it wasn't like immediate sadness. It was kind of like, honestly, like relief of like, well, he didn't really want to be like this. So the first like day or two was just me being like, oh, this is weird. Everyone else is really upset around me, but I'm not. Like I was, but you know what I mean? I wasn't like outright crying. I didn't have this big moment. And then it just kind of hit me a little bit later in the time, but yeah, it teaches you a lot about yourself of like what am I like as a human being and like what is grief to me? Because that's really the only time I've ever really gone through it. And it just taught me a lot about my resiliency and stuff like that. So I don't know. I was just relieved that he wasn't hurting anymore because I just really, really didn't want to see him like I did. Dementia sucks, people. If you've never had anyone go through it, it's truly quite awful because to watch someone who's so just relies on themselves so much turn into someone that cannot do anything for themselves is like, oh man, it's not fun.
Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.